bachelor's degree in business administration from University of Naples Federico and a master's degree in international business and economics from the University of Pavia, with studies completed at IAE Lyon Business School. Additionally, she earned a master's in performing arts management from the Politecnico di Milano and Accademia Teatro alla Scala. Her diverse academic foundation combines expertise in international business, economics, and performing arts and management, providing a solid base for her career in cultural management and sponsorship development. This webinar is proudly hosted by FemStech Worldwide in collaboration with 𝐿FA-Career, two organizations dedicated to empowering professionals in the business landscape. Before we dive in, I would like to remind you to use the chat feature for any questions you may have through the presentation. We will have a Q&A session at the end where Letizia will address your queries. Now, without further ado, let's welcome Letizia Mosella to the virtual stage to share her expertise with us. Letizia, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Laila, for the introduction and the kind words, and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar. I'm Letizia, and a business development professional, and I collaborate with 𝐿FA-Career as advisor. And I want to thank FemStech and 𝐿FA-Career for the opportunity to host this webinar. It's fantastic to be here with you, and I'm excited to share strategies for building impactful partnerships. For those of you who might not know, 𝐿FA-Career is an edutech startup that's all about helping individuals and teams grow into effective leaders through personalized coaching, networking opportunities, and career guidance. 𝐿FA-Career aims to empower people to build meaningful connection and lead with purpose. So today we'll explore strategies for building sustainable partnerships and seize growth opportunities. Before we jump in, a few housekeeping points. Please keep your mic muted so everyone can follow along. As Laila said, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to drop questions or comments in the chat as we go. And I'll also have some questions for you along the way, so let's make this as interactive as possible. Here's what we'll cover today. First, we'll look at building partnerships that last. Then we'll dive into spotting growth opportunities in changing markets. And finally, we'll discuss how to maintain these relationships for the long term. But first, let's get to know each other a bit. I'm Letizia, and I started my career in the corporate world. It was a great experience and taught me a lot about business, but deep down, I knew my real passion was elsewhere. I'd always loved opera, ballet, and theater, and I knew I wanted to make that world my career. So I took a leap. I moved into arts management, which eventually led me first to New York and then to the Emirates, working as a sponsorship manager for the Abu Dhabi Festival. There I had the privilege of working with incredible brands to bring culture and creativity to the forefront. It's been an amazing journey, blending my love for the arts with the business skills I developed in my corporate days. And now I get to help organizations build partnerships that don't just make business sense, but also inspires and connect people on a deeper level. I'd love to hear from you as well. So if you've made a similar shift in your career or you're passionate about something that inspires you, feel free to share that in the chat and we can talk about that later. Before we dive in, you might be wondering why I've chosen to focus on partnerships when talking about business development. In my experience, I've found that partnerships are the lifeblood of long-term growth and resilience. Partnerships are so much more than business transactions. They're about creating lasting relationships that enhance credibility, expand reach, and often open doors to opportunities we wouldn't have access to alone. Another reason I focus on partnerships is that they help mitigate risks. A well-chosen partner can offer insights or support in times of uncertainty. So as we talk about business development, I hope you see why investing in these connections can really make the difference between surviving and thriving. So let's start with building partnership that last the first section. When you identify potential partners, look for ones that bring complementary strengths and values that resonate with yours. For example, if you want to collaborate with a sustainable brand, let's say, make sure that their values in environmental sustainability aligns with maybe your vision of a sustainable future, because that common ground, it's really essential to the collaboration success. Setting clear expectations is crucial in any kind of relationships, but that is especially true for business relationships. I've seen partnerships fail because one side felt that they were giving more than they received. So a great way to avoid this is by setting measurable goals from the set start. For example, with one of our art sponsors, we set specific KPIs for audience engagement and brand visibility. So by defining success, what success meant for us upfront, both parties knew what to work toward. Here are some examples of KPIs to consider. For example, revenue goals, customer acquisition, or brand impact. For instance, in my previous role, we in a sponsorship agreement, we set a target to grow social media engagement by 20% through a partnership campaign. So that goal was measurable and achievable, which kept both sides motivated. If you have any KPIs you're working on or you're unsure of, please feel free to ask about them so we can talk about that later. Once you establish a partnership, nurturing it is key. Sometimes we think that the most difficult part is to close the deal, but actually the difficult part comes later. I think it's really important to have regular check-ins with our partners, not just to discuss numbers, but to understand their feedback and their evolving needs, and also our evolving needs. These meetings help to stay aligned and to adapt as needed. Now, let's talk about identifying growth opportunities. As we know, markets change fast, especially nowadays with all this uncertainty. And sometimes the best opportunities come from adapting these shifts. For example, in my industry, I recently saw a growing interest in digital events, especially after the pandemic. And in my previous experience, this led us to pivot a few in-person programs to virtual ones. And this opened up new audiences we hadn't initially considered. So keeping an eye on trends is key. And you can do that not only scrolling through your social media feed, but also really trying to stay updated on the news, and of course check always your sources and try to rely only on reliable sources. Adapting to shifts is more than just riding a trend. It's about aligning those changes with your core goals. For example, in the example I made before, we embraced virtual events, not only because they were popular, but because they align with our aim of making the arts more accessible and also stay relevant. That's another very important point when things around us change. Also, adapting to these changes make us resilient. And resilience is so important. We've seen businesses recover more effectively when they're willing to adapt. In one of the partnerships that I managed, the flexibility to shift focus during the pandemic, for example, allowed us to keep us moving forward and even under challenging circumstances. Finally, let's talk about sustainable relationship management, because building long-term relationships means showing up, deliver consistently, and staying adaptable. There are a lot of elements to it, but I try to condense in 3 core components of what I think it means a sustainable relationship: trust, consistency, and adaptability. These are the 3 pillars, and especially the first 2 are really interconnected, because I've seen how when one partner consistently shows up and delivers, it builds a solid foundation of trust. And this trust allows for smoother communication, which is essential for long-term success. I also would love to hear, in your opinion, what's the most challenging part of maintaining trust in a partnership? What do you think? I love to hear your thoughts. Talking about ongoing engagement, I think this is like a key element for me in not only nurture the relationship, but also make sure that you can renew that relationship and rely on a long-term partnership, which gives, by the way, sustainability to your projects as well, financial sustainability, but also like sustainability in terms of resources and partners. So keeping partners engaged keeps the relationship alive. For example, you can host joint events and co-branded initiatives that not only strengthen the bond with your partner, but also keep the audience engaged as well, depending on which the audience is, based on different industries. Also, regular evaluations are crucial to making partnerships evolve. For example, I would hold an annual review to discuss what is working, what is not working, maybe reassess expectations. We've talked about expectations before, and identify areas for improvement. Because at the end of the day, if we achieve like a win-win mutual agreement, everyone is happy. And this openness to feedback also really help keep the partnership fresh and beneficial. So to wrap up and to be mindful of everyone's time, here are some key takeaways. Of course, there are a lot of things we can talk about, a lot of topics we can discuss, but I try to condensate the most important element, at least for me in my experience. So let's try to remember these points. Find partners with shared values, adapt to market changes, foster trust and consistency, stay proactive, quindi try to be always proactive and not reactive, and also leverage data and analytics and really rely on those KPIs we've talked about, which stands for key performance indicators, by the way. So with these strategies, you'll be better positioned to create partnerships that are both impactful and enduring. Because as I said before, I really love to think at partnerships not as mere business transactions, but relationships that really can make an impact. So thank you so much for joining today. And if you'd like to discuss these strategies further or connect, please reach out. And I think now we can open up for the floor for questions. Please feel free to raise your hand or drop them in the chat. But before doing that, I also want to share the contacts of the Alpha Career team. And I mean, you can contact us on LinkedIn or through my email for your leadership and career coaching needs. And that's it.
Thank you, Letizia. It was an interesting presentation, and I'm sure that everyone learned a lot from this. Now, if there is any question from the audience, we can hear, and Letizia will answer your questions. You can put it in the chat box or simply raise your hand and unmute yourself and ask your questions. Is there any questions? So I think there is no question. So thank you all for joining us today. A special thanks to our presenter, Letizia, for sharing such valuable insights and strategies for effective business development. Your expertise and engaging presentation have provided us with a lot of things to think about. I also want to express my gratitude to each of you in this presentation for participating. So thank you once again for being with us today, and have a wonderful day, everyone. And Letizia, is there any final thoughts that you want to share with us?
I just want to say don't be shy, and thanks to everyone who participated. And I mean, if you don't feel comfortable to raise any questions in this space, you can always reach out to me, and I'm happy to discuss any ideas, thoughts, or consideration you might have.
Thank you so much, Letizia.
Thank you, Laila.
Thank you. Have a nice